Hey, boys and girls, I'm so glad to be back and making these videos and Bible lessons with you. We're going to jump on into Mark chapter 5 today, and I'm excited to share some more amazing, miraculous stories from Jesus. I want to start us off right now thinking about a time where you may have gotten hurt, a time where you thought, I'll just shake it off, I'll walk it off, I'll be fine. And later, maybe it really wasn't fine. My boys love Legos. I know many of you do too. And I picked my farmer Lego to share with you guys today. I'm sure you know why. Thinking about a Lego, and the minifigs in particular, we can take the pieces apart. We can change out the head and the torso and the legs and the arms and the hands. But looking at my minifig, right now, he is not complete. Okay, I took his arm off just so that you would be able to see what's going on exactly. I'm the Lego builder. I'm the Lego creator in this case. I actually put him together at a Lego store. I created this. Right now, he is not whole. But as the Lego creator, I can put that arm back on to restore this Lego. And I can put that hat back on his head so that my little Lego minifig is restored and he's complete. Today, we're going to look in Mark chapter 5 at how Jesus restores some physical people, their beings, how he restores their minds, and how he restores life. So let's jump in and start reading in Mark chapter 5. They went across the lake to the region of Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an evil spirit came from the tombs to meet him. This man lived in the tombs, and no one could bind him, not even with a chain. For he had often been chained hand and foot, but he tore the chains apart and broke the irons on his feet. Think about this. We're talking about a man who is so strong because of the evil spirits that are living inside of him, that chains, he's able to just pull them and break them apart. Night and day among the tombs and in the hills, he would cry out and cut himself with stones. Doesn't sound like a very good life to me. When he saw Jesus from a distance, he ran and fell on his knees in front of Jesus. He shouted at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus? Son of the Most High God, swear to God that you won't torture me." For Jesus had said to him, "Come out of this man, you evil spirit." And then Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" "My name is Legion," he replied, "for we are many." That's because there were so many evil spirits living inside of him. He begged Jesus again and again not to send them out of the area. A large herd of pigs was feeding on the nearby hillside. The demons begged Jesus, "Send us among the pigs. Allow us to go into them." He gave them permission, and the evil spirits came out and went into the pigs. The herd, about 2,000 in number, rushed down the steep bank into the lake, and they were drowned. I want to take a second, think about the pig. We don't always think of them as being all that great of an animal, but we usually think of them as dirty. But pigs are actually really smart. They'll eat almost anything, but they understand about the sun and they need shade and they have to keep their skin moisturized. You can train pigs, believe it or not. A lot of people have pigs as pets and keep them in their homes because they're so smart and they learn how to do things kind of like dogs. We assume that because pigs are just farm animals, they're not very smart. But what we know is that in reality, they're really smart. And pigs are not just going to walk into a lake and drown themselves. The only reason that happened is because of those evil spirits that Jesus took out of Legion and sent into the pigs. He got rid of those evil spirits. He restored this man to who he was. Let's keep reading. We're going to pick up in verse 14. Those tending the pigs ran off and reported this in town and countryside, and the people went out to see what had happened. When they came to Jesus, they saw the man who had been possessed by the legion of demons sitting there, dressed and in their right mind. They were afraid. Those who had seen it told the people what had happened to the demon-possessed man and told about the pigs as well. And then the people began to plead with Jesus, "Leave, get out of our region." As Jesus was getting into the boat, the man who had been demon-possessed begged to go with him. But Jesus did not let him. Instead, he said, "Go home to your family. Tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." So the man went away and began to tell in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him. And all the people were amazed. So thinking about Legion, this man who's demon-possessed, he's begging to be with Jesus. He wants to stay with Jesus. But Jesus reminded him that he's always with him. He may not physically be standing next to him, but he's always with him. It's kind of the same as those moments where we want to have our mom and dad by our side. We feel safer when they're with us. Even though mom and dad might be in the other room, they might be on the sidelines at a game or sitting on a bench while we're playing at the playground. We want to see them. We want to be right near them so we feel safe. That's what happened with this man. Jesus is saying, you are safe. You've been restored. I am always with you. From this situation with Legion, Jesus is teaching us something. He's sharing with us that we are to do the work of Jesus. Our physical bodies, we are supposed to do the work. It's because of him that we get to do this work. This is kind of shocking, but you have to keep in mind, this man had only met Jesus in this moment when Jesus was walking by, and this demon-possessed man named Legion sees him and he runs and cries in front of him, and Jesus restores him. One time he decided he wants to be near Jesus. He wants to be with Jesus. He wants to be one of those people who gets to share this miraculous story. And Jesus says, you get to, but not with me. He sends him to tell his friends what he had done. But the man doesn't stop at just his friends. He goes on and he shares it with the 10 cities. They call it the Decapolis. He goes on to share with all of these big cities the miracle of Jesus healing him, restoring him. If other people are ever going to believe that they can be rescued from sin, they have to know that we were rescued. They have to hear our hard times and our sad stories about how God has taken care of us. thinking about what Jesus did for this man. He restored his control. With all those evil spirits living inside of him, he didn't have control. And we read here in the scripture about how he was so strong because he had thousands of these evil spirits living in him that he could rip apart chains by getting rid of those evil spirits. He got back his control. He restored his home. He was able to go back and interact with his friends and his family. He restored his strength over Satan. Now he could recognize, I've sinned and I need to do something different. I have to live for Jesus and make changes. Jesus restored his mind. He could think clearly again. And he was able to use his thoughts and his experience to share with others. He wanted to spread the word of Jesus and the good news from his experience. He restored his relationships, his reputation. I mean, think about it. This was this crazy man who was controlled by all these evil spirits living in a cave way far away in the hills. People in town could hear him screaming and hollering at night. He would cut himself with rocks. He looked like a crazy man. But instantly, Jesus took those evil spirits, put him in the pigs, and he was back to himself. And the people were amazed because it was like, that guy was the same guy we knew before, except now he wants to do better. He wants to be one of Jesus's followers, but that's him. That's him again. Like he's normal. His reputation's been repaired and restored. Jesus gave him purpose because of what he was able to do for this man. He now had a mission. He had something he had to share. He wanted to say so much about what Jesus had done in his life. And Jesus restored his peace. Now, peace doesn't mean it's just quiet and I can take a nap. Peace doesn't even mean that everything is good. Peace just means that in my heart and in my mind, things are going on, but I can put my trust in God and I can have faith that he's taking care of things. And this man was now able to be at peace because God had restored him completely. This man's life changed in ways that we will never understand, just simply because we don't have all the details in the Bible. But he was restored. He was made whole. Have you ever had a time where a friend or a family member maybe gave you a really special gift, or they did something so kind, so nice, that you had to tell everyone about it? Like you just had this great news that you had to share, like, oh, you guys, guess what so-and-so did for me? Or look what so-and-so gave me. Like you just have to tell everybody you know because you're so excited. That's the gift that Jesus gave this man, the one that they called Legion. He called himself Legion. He had this gift, this message that he had to get out because it was so good. It was so right. And he was excited to share. He wanted everyone to know about the good in his life. How often do you share about the good in your life because of your walk in faith, because of what Jesus has done for us? I know it can be hard at times, and you might think, I'm too young to talk about that with my friends. But it's never a bad thing to talk about. You always can find ways to share with your friends, your family, how God has taken care of you, how because of your trust in him, that you know there's good and that he takes care of you and restores you. Let's continue reading in Mark chapter 5. We're going to start in verse 21. We're going to read about a man who approaches Jesus and says, I need you to help. I need you to restore. So here we go. When Jesus had again crossed over by boat to the other side of the lake, a large crowd gathered all around him while he was by the lake. Then one of the synagogue rulers, named Jairus, came there. Seeing Jesus, he fell at his feet and pleaded earnestly with him. My little daughter is dying. Please come and put your hands on her so that she will be healed and live. So Jesus went with him. Okay, I want to stop and think about this. Jesus is approached by a man named Jairus. He's a religious leader in the synagogue, okay? What we have to stop and understand is that because he's a man of the synagogue, most men who are in the synagogue working, they don't like Jesus. They want to tear him down. They want him far away from what they're trying to do in the synagogue. They don't believe his message. So the fact that Jairus approaches Jesus and says, I need you to help me, this is a big deal. That means that Jairus recognizes Jesus' power. As a mom, I think about my love for my children. As a parent, your mom and dad feel this way too. You can trust me on that. I know your moms and dads. He wasn't acting as a synagogue leader. Jairus was acting as a father, a dad who was willing to do anything to save his daughter. A parent's love is so strong. And it's not something that you can understand as the child. But I understand it as a mom. This was one of the worst moments in his life. Jairus is hurting because his daughter is hurting. He wasn't worried about his training and what he knew about the synagogue. He was worried about his daughter. He was being a father. And he knew, because of everything he'd heard about Jesus, he knew that Jesus had power, that he could heal his daughter. And so Jairus had faith in him. And Jesus recognized it. He knew this wasn't just some, man on the street saying, hey, come help me. He knew this was a synagogue ruler who put everything aside to say, I believe in you and your power, and I need you to come heal my daughter. Think about the faith he had. We're going to pick up here in verse 35. While Jesus was still speaking, some men came from the house of Jairus, the synagogue ruler. Your daughter is dead, they told him. Why bother this man, this teacher, anymore? But ignoring what they said, Jesus told the synagogue ruler, don't be afraid, just believe. He did not let anyone follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. When they came to the home of the synagogue ruler, Jesus saw a commotion of people crying and wailing loudly. He went in and said to them, Why all this commotion and wailing? The child is not dead, simply asleep. And they laughed at Jesus. He put all of them out, took the child's father and mother, and the disciples who were with him, and he went in where the child was. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha Koum, which means, little girl, I say to you, get up. Immediately the girl stood up and walked around. She was 12 years old. At this, they were completely astonished. He gave strict orders not to let anyone know about this, and he told them to give her something to eat. Do you understand what we just read? This is so much more than restoring and healing something that's going on. He restored her life. Now, he didn't want everybody to think that. But in this chapter, we read about he doesn't just speak with authority. He has authority over demons, over illness, over death. Jesus is powerful, and he restores so much. We live in this physical world, and often we get scared, especially when we lose our focus, when we lose what it is we need to be keeping our mind on in God. Our connection to God is one that should fill us with power. It should give us that faith that he's restoring us daily. He's taking care of us. And that even in those painful, hurtful moments, he's there. He's got us. How do you think it would have felt to be this 12-year-old girl who's been sick and then she dies, and then all of a sudden she's alive and perfectly healthy? And Jesus is like, hey, all right, get her something to eat. She's going to be hungry. Y'all, this is mind-blowing. How do you think her family felt about this situation and how Jesus was able to restore her? Amazing. Now we're going to look at verse 24, and we're going to read about another woman. Very special situation. A great crowd was with Jesus and followed and pressed around him. This is as he's traveling to Jairus' house. A woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. She had some kind of disorder that she just would bleed, and you couldn't stop her from bleeding for 12 years, not 12 minutes, not 12 days, 12 years. Most of you all aren't even that age. So think about that, 12 years. She had suffered a great deal under the care of many doctors, and she'd spent all that she had, yet instead of getting better, she got worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came up behind him in the crowd. She touched his cloak because she thought, if I just touch his clothes, I'll be healed. Immediately, her bleeding stopped, and she felt it in her entire body that she was free from her suffering. But at once, Jesus realized that power had gone out from him, and he turned around in the crowd and he asked, who touched my clothes? Stop and visualize this. This man, Jesus, is walking, and there are people just crowding around him. He's got his disciples with him, and they're walking with Jairus and going to his home so that they can heal his daughter. And one woman, one person in particular, stretches and reaches out, just wanting to touch his cloak because her faith was so big and so deep. And in that moment, she was healed and she felt it. But Jesus felt that power leave him. Who knows how many people were surrounding him, but it's a lot. And he still was able to recognize power left me. Who touched me? You see people crying against you, the disciples answered him. And yet you asked, who touched me? But Jesus kept looking around to see what had done. The woman, knowing what had happened to her, came. She fell at his feet. And trembling with fear, she told the truth. And Jesus said to her, daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace and be freed from your suffering. She knew that Jesus could restore her health. And what's awesome is that it wasn't just restoring her health, it was restoring her mind. Because when Jesus took care of her in that way, it took away all of that stress, that worry. He restored all of her in that one healing moment. For the first time in 12 years, she walked with peace and no more suffering. 12 years. That's how old Luke is. I can't imagine suffering with something so awful for 12 years. We have to stop and think about Jesus and how he can restore us, how he can heal us. He has the authority and the power, as we've just read in Mark chapter 5, over the demons, over illness, over death. Nothing was going to stop Jairus from trusting that Jesus could restore his daughter, and nothing was going to stop the woman from believing that Jesus could heal her. Do we put our trust in Jesus the same way? Do we give him the opportunity to restore us when we're upset, when we're hurt, when we're tired, stressed, or worried? Do we give it to Jesus, give it to God and say, here it is. I'm worried, I'm upset, I'm anxious, I'm hurting. Restore me, God. Fix me. In our worst and most desperate, awful moments, Jesus will always be a source of strength. He will always give us hope. Jesus brings life. He is our life. We don't have to go looking for that anywhere else. Now, I'm not saying we don't need doctors. Don't misunderstand me. But we have to put our faith in God. That what we do in our life is being taken care of by him. And we have to understand how our faith plays a big role in our restoration. How when we give things to God, how he can take it and fix and nurture things in ways that we don't always understand. I want to take a second and go back to my minifig. As the Lego creator and the Lego builder, I can restore him. I can take these little guys apart, mix them up, switch their bodies, do whatever, because I'm the Lego creator. I'm the Lego builder. Are we giving God that power to restore us in our daily lives? So think about that next time you pick up your Legos and you play with your minifigs. You might take their arms off, switch their heads, give them hats, little tools, things to carry around, maybe even beards and mustaches. You're the creator. Are you going to leave them messed up and broken and destroyed? Or are you going to restore them? So think about this week when you're hurt, when you're upset, when you're anxious and stressed. Talk to God. Pray. Ask Him to heal you. Ask Him to restore you. See what He can do for you. I love and miss you guys, and I can't wait to be back in the class with you. I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, guys.